for a little effect here, like staring into the cathode ray, so to speak, because this is Late Night Noir Part Deuce, or Part Goose, or whatever the hell it was, because I believe that I had covered a lot of stuff before, and then I'd mentioned some other films that I couldn't find that I actually went through the trouble of digging up. Now I got two dogs in here bugging me. No, go away. Come on, let me do this. Yeah, so I figured, I don't know, this little weird-ass light here thing would be a cathode ray or something like that, but, you know, I'm trying to be fucking creative here and it ain't working, so I may as well just smoke a joint. Light up the joint anyway. And see if that works. I don't know if this is too dark or not. But like we say, it's always 4:20 at Pete's house. Well, a lot of these weird films show up like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. First one that comes to mind was something called Crash Out from 1955. They lifted riot footage from Riot in Cell Block 11 to open the show, as a bunch of guys were breaking out of prison. And Duff is played by William Bendix, character actor from the 40s and 50s. And it also has Gene Evans, Luther Adler, Marshall Thompson, and who was that guy? William Talman. A who's who of like 50s character actors all playing prisoners. Well, anyway, the big breakout happens and Duff is shot in the shoulder. So they all wound up in a mine. They were going to leave Duff, except Duff offers them a piece of the $180,000 he stole during a bank job. So now they have to get to the money, but of course they got to take Duff with them. So they get to a gas station and get on a phone and call a doctor that there's an accident that happened or something like that, and they hijack the doctor. And he takes care of Duff, and then the rest of them decide to leave. Well, Duff holds back one of the guys, Luther, the William Talman character, who was also a religious fanatic, and tells him that, you know something, we can't leave the doctor alive. So Luther goes back into the cave and takes him out with a rock. So now they find their way to a bar. Well, the character played by Luther Adler, Pete, has the doctor's hat and coat and goes into the bar and lets the others into the back door, which they soon take over the bar, tell 5 patrons to strip so they can take the clothes and, you know, blend into normal society or cover their ass for whatever reason. So, I guess I should hold, I don't know, I'm fucking up here. Should I hold the cathode ray closer to my face? Make me look regal or something? I don't know. So anyway, they get dressed with these guys' clothes, and all of a sudden 2 cops come into the bar, and Duff tells the bartender that if they alert the cops, they will be cutting people's throats upstairs that are holding hostage. So the cops, you know, get blown off, but one of the cops decides to go back because he never got change of his 5. There's a shootout involved, and Pete bites the dust. That levels the odds for that cutting up the money. The other 4 get on a train where the Marshall Thompson character, Billy, starts talking to a girl passenger played by Gloria Talbot. Billy is told to leave the girl alone, but he decides he wants to escort her off the train. Basically, he wants to book. So Duff sends, again, Luther after him, who throws a knife into his back. So now they're still on the run. They come to this farm where Beverly Michaels, her mother, and her son live. Of course, they take over the farm, force Mom to cook for them, and then they're going to go basically up into the mountains, because it's snowing now, and get the cash. Well, one of the cons, played by Arthur Kennedy, is a little bit enamored of the Beverly Michaels character. Plus, he doesn't trust Duff. So something happens between Luther and the character, I think it was, the character's name is Red, played by Gene Evans, and somehow Red gets lit on fire and dies. So now the three are trekking through the wilderness when all of a sudden Luther goes batshit and decides Duff is the devil and tries to kill him and gets killed himself. The money is dug up. The Arthur Kennedy character takes off. Duff freezes to death. Arthur Kennedy walks away, leaving the frozen Duff and the money. Obviously, go back to the Beverly Michaels character. Pretty good film, you know, like I said, incorporates a lot of, you know, familiar faces from the late 40s and early 50s. And, of course, Gene Evans and Marshall Thompson went on to battle monsters. Marshall Thompson did a bunch of horror movies, First Man in Space, mostly sci-fi stuff, It, the Terror from Beyond Space. Gene Evans was in Donovan's Brain and in The Giant Behemoth. William Bendix, unfortunately, was ill. He passed away around 56, but that was after he wrangled a spot in a film called Young Fury as the blacksmith, pretty much a little cameo, and he didn't look pretty good in there. I believe he had a stomach ailment, which might have been cancer. Arthur Kennedy, of course, lasted for a while, then went overseas to do some westerns and some Euro horror films. Beverly Michaels only did a few films and then just dropped out of it altogether. So that was Crash Out. Next one up, I came home late with a lady friend of mine, and there was a film on called Die, Die, My Darling from 1965. Being that I had a black and white TV, I assumed it was black and white, and I figured, well, how can you go wrong with a title like Die, Die, My Darling? Well, actually you can. It's a Hammer film with very little hammer in it. Stephanie Powers is in it. Tallulah Bankhead is the crazy old woman. And Donald Sutherland is in his third Euro horror film as Joe, the, special needs handyman, to be politically fucking correct here. So there's a bunch of shit where Stephanie Powers' character was engaged to Tallulah Bankhead's son, who passed away, and she still feels that this is his woman, and she has a shrine to him in his room, and basically she kidnaps her there, holds her there. There's two servants that are very weird and rapey. One of the women servants is her muscle and stabs Stephanie Powers with his scissors when they decide to cut up her evil undergarments. She makes the mistake of putting on lipstick at one point in the film, and Tallulah Bankhead says, "Wipe that filth off your face." Then she's forced to write a note to her fiancé saying she's not leaving the castle, whatever this fucking place was that she's held up in. Of course, he don't believe it. He shows up. He gets knocked out. And then in the interim, the character Harry tried to get a little rapey and was killed by Tallulah. So they break down the door. Joseph gets shot as Tallulah shoots through the door. Yada, yada. And, Tallulah eventually, she dies from something. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to put this fucking thing over because it kind of sucks. It's like, it is a Hammer film, but not a very good one. And it seems like 66 around there was a plethora of crazy old lady films, like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. What the hell was the other one? Altman did a couple. Shit, now I'm like, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, Straight Jacket, things like that, all with crazy old ladies. As a matter of fact, there was a short-lived horror magazine called Shriek that had a contest, who was the best horror hag. Never entered that for some reason. Now we come to a film that was directed by Irwin Kershner, who went on to direct one of the Star Wars films. I think it was The Empire Strikes Back. Stakeout on Dope Street, 1958, starring Jonathan Hayes. That's the only named star in it. You do see a few other familiar faces in it, but it opens up with some cops that are busting drug dealers. There's a shootout. One cop dies. The drug dealer, the setup, dies, and the suitcase with the drugs in it is dropped, which is found by a teenager, brought back two other teenagers who hang out in his father's store. They don't know what's in it. They find this almost like a Quaker Oats type container full of heroin, but they don't know what it is, so they throw it out. Well, it hits the papers the next day that they're looking for this shit, so these kids flag down the garbage man, and the truck has already gone to the dump, so they go to the landfill in hopes of finding this Quaker Oats-sized container in piles of garbage that are being bulldozed over and over again. Now, what are the odds of anybody finding something like that in a landfill? Slim and none, right? But they find it. So Now they need to sell it, so they get a bunch of it and they peel it off and put it in a piece of torn paper bag. And one of the kids goes to this guy Danny, who's supposedly an ex-junkie. He's not an ex-anything. So they show him the stuff and he says, yeah, I can move it. And as soon as they leave, he cuts that in half and puts his stash in another torn piece of brown paper bag. I never did drugs, heroin or otherwise, except for weed. And I guess that was the preferred method of distributing drugs back in the 50s, is to wrap them in a piece of torn brown paper bag. Well, the mob is looking for this shit big time. Two guys are told that if they don't come up with the drugs, they better not come back because they won't be going home. So there's a search for the drugs, and of course, you know, a drug junkie is the most unreliable person on the planet, so of course they track it down to Danny and beat the shit out of him. But before that, Danny is questioned by the cleaner cut of the kids, I think his name was Jim, about being a junkie, and we get this long involved thing about kicking it in a jail cell and going cold turkey and being strapped down to a bed, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so the odd part of this film is none of these kids were ever inclined to even try the shit. They were just strictly in it for the money. So Danny gets the shit beat out of him, where I think the kid's name is Carl, comes back, the tougher of the kids, and he gets the shit beat out of him. Now Jimmy has a twinge of conscience after talking to his girlfriend about selling death, and he's going to give the shit to the cops. Well, the Jonathan Hayes character gets grabbed by them and is forced to make a phone call with a gun in his stomach, and he tells Jimmy, you got to bring the stuff back. So they go to get Jimmy at the store, pistol whipping, Jonathan, leaving him there. There's a big chase through an industrial area. Jimmy climbs this big water tower with one of the hoods right behind him, and in an inspired fucking moment, dumps the entire container of dope right in the guy's face. Cops come up. This guy shot off the thing. Of course, crime doesn't pay. These kids are going to do some time, and that was the end of the film. Interesting little film. Like I said, the thing that really intrigued me was that, like I said, none of these kids seemed to incline to get high with this stuff or even try it. So that was that. Another film from '58 was Machine Gun Kelly that ran late at night. Now, this is interesting because this was, I think, Charles Bronson's first starring role, but the part was originally supposed to go to Dick Miller. But the screenwriter, Ari Campbell, was starting to tailor the script to his actor brother, William Campbell. So to avoid problems and whatever the fuck it was, Roger Corman was director, Roger Corman was in charge, he gave the lead role to Charles Bronson. This is also Maury Amsterdam's first film. He was a stand-up comic and, of course, was on the Dick Van Dyke Show for years. Maury plays a gay snitch. Now, back then, it took a huge pair of balls to play an overtly gay character in a film, any kind of film. Also rounding out the cast is Frank DeCova, Wally Campo, Jack Lambert, Susan Cabot as Kelly's girlfriend, who pushes him into deeper and deeper crimes, Richard Devon, Barbara Morris, bunch of things. It really plays Kelly as a guy who's terrified of death and dying, and in the opening thing he blows a bank robbery ending in the death of Mays, played by Wally Campo, pissing off the Jack Lambert character, so they go laying for him. He finds out that the Maury Amsterdam character called Fanny snitched on him and pushes his arm into a cage that has a Wildcat in it. So he's missing an arm. Frank DeCova is the guy who has the Wildcat because he has this gas station with one of those crappy roadside zoos. So, like I said, it's Susan Cabot pushing him into this whole thing. They kidnap a girl, which actually did happen with the original Machine Gun Kelly. And he finds out that Fanny ratted on him, and Fanny goes off on him, and then Frank DeCova shoots Fanny in the head and starts a shootout with the cops. Kelly is cringing in the corner while he gets killed, and then he gets taken by himself. And, they said, oh, big bad gangster, or this and that and the other thing, and that's actually the way it happened. He gave up. But Bronson plays the character as a complete heel. It's a typical Charles Bronson heavy. But he plays it great, which, actually shows that, even back then, Bronson had great acting chops, because he plays it wonderfully. And Actually, he starred 2 other times with Frank DeCova. He was in Run of the Arrow, where they both played Indians, and they were both riding around in loincloths, and both were pretty fucking buff back then. And also, in The Stone Killer, Frank DeCova was one of the mob guys. So they had a history there. So that's a film that, for what I think it's on YouTube. It might be public domain or something, but for some reason, this was considered one of Corman's most respected films, and never even got a DVD release. Got a shitty VHS release, I think from Columbia Home Video or something. So that was another one. I have to check the pad here for some stuff. Gunfighters of Casa Grande, 1966. I had mentioned this before, that I had seen it on, a really late movie showcase and never saw it since. Of course, I have to lay out money to buy the DVD-R. Honestly, it's okay, but it drags in certain areas. It seems like this gunfighter, Joe Daylight, played by Alex Nicole. I think that's part of the reason why it's stuck in my mind, because a guy named Joe Daylight, how can you forget a name like that? What's his cousin's name? Ed Midnight. But anyway, he won a ranch, like Casa Grande, in a poker game. Also robbed the bank, and he's seen hiding the loot, and he tells his men that he used the loot to buy the ranch, which is bullshit. For whatever reason, during the course of the film, this loot is completely forgotten and is never brought up again, nor is it retrieved. One of his men, Doc, played by Australian comic Dick Bentley, is pretty wise to this thing, that he didn't win the thing in a poker game when we're going to split the money. One guy is shot off the bat because he disagrees with the whole thing about owning a ranch. So it's Daylight, Doc, Honoré, who's rapey, and the Laughing Kid. They go down there and they get all the other ranchers together, because there's this bandit Rojo, played by Aldo Sambrell, who has a pedigree playing Mexican bandits, and he gets a pretty meaty role in this one. So they all have to band together against the bandit, but the whole end game is they want to combine all the cattle herds so Joe could steal them, but they don't know that. So Henry is killed by the Laughing Kid when he tries to rape the Laughing Kid's girlfriend. Cuts it down to 3 guys. There's a climactic shootout where they basically lure the bandits in. Rojo is killed, and Doc takes umbrage to the whole deal that Joe is going to steal the cattle, and he basically tells Joe to fuck off. He's not down with it. Joe shoots him in the back, then has to face down the Laughing Kid, who kills him. Alex Nicole is the tallest guy in the film. He towers over everyone. There's enough action to keep you occupied, but it's, on a second viewing after God knows how many years, it really doesn't hold up that well. But like I said, it's worth a look for the action. Alex Nicole had been living in Europe because he did a couple films over there. And most horror fans would know him as the director of The Screaming Skull, and he also starred in it. So that was Alex Nicole. What else do we have on this list of things here? Okay, here's one. Dog Eat Dog. Now, it starred Jane Mansfield and Cameron Mitchell. It's about a heist of bearer bonds that are supposed to be destroyed, $1 million worth of bearer bonds. And this is one of those German, Spanish co-productions or stuff like that. It's out on some island. It opens up with Cameron Mitchell supposedly getting killed by being tossed off this rock ledge by his partner, Dolph, played by Ivan Salter. Of course, he isn't killed. They go to this hotel, and there's a lot of talking, and it seems like Jane Mansfield, for whatever reason, is rolling around in a nightie in a pile of money, and this night guy, one of the managers of the hotel, Morelli, comes in and spots one of the bearer bonds and knows that they did the heist. So of course he's planning to take out the money, kill the two, take the money, whatever. Doesn't work out that way because, like I said, Cameron Mitchell character, I can't remember what his name was. Damn, escapes me. But what the hell? I just call him Cam. All right, he isn't dead, and he's waiting on the boat when Morelli's sister decides to plant a bomb on it. Of course, this is all fucking crazy shit. Cam beats up Dolph pretty bad, and they're double crossing. He's what's the chick's name? Darlene. Jane Mansfield's playing Darlene, and she keeps saying crackers, which I think is oh shit in general, but she keeps saying oh crackers, which gets fucking annoying as all hell. Of course, she gets in a cat fight with Morelli's sister as they get to this island, which the only people on this island are this old woman and her manservant, played by Warner Peters, who was a familiar face in these movies. And it's all this weird double cross, triple cross, and then all of a sudden, Dolph winds up strangled in a fountain. Well, he was making a deal with Werner Peters to get off the island because Werner Peters knows a lot of cops. Well, Werner Peters offers the deal to the Cameron Mitchell character. And then Werner Peters winds up stabbed. Then Cameron Mitchell, now I don't know how, this is weird, late night thing, there's a completely nude titty picture painting on the wall. I don't think the studios picked this up, so Cameron Mitchell slashes it up, gets the painting of the old lady, and she has a heart attack when she sees that and dies. So they're trying to figure out where the money was, because originally it was hidden in the piano, but it's not in the piano anymore. And then Morelli steals what he thinks the money, and somebody blows him up with a firebomb. So everybody's dying. So it winds up that the sisters, this psycho, has all the money sewed under her dress. There's a big to-do with her and Cameron Mitchell. They both go falling off this fucking cliff into the ocean and die. And then Darlene wanders in wearing her nightie or fur or some shit to get the money. And she drowns as the authorities close in. So here we have a great, West German film starring two of our most enduring stars, Jane Mansfield and Cameron Mitchell. Actually, the film's a lot of fun, and the dubbing is completely fucked up because half the time Cameron Mitchell's like going manic, and he never cleaned up his head injury, and he's got blood all over him. So that's our show for today, taking you back to Late Night Noir Part 2. So thanks for stopping in, thanks for subscribing, and stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode of Grindhouse Purgatory with 42nd Street Pete. I'm out of here.